The power of thunder returns for Season 2 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Reignition's toy line, as Playmates toys and character toys, Combinable Thunderzords, hit store shelves, and it is so cool to be able to go into a toy shop and see the Dinozords beside the Thunderzords in retro nostalgic packaging being sold for impulse buy amounts. They've managed this by splitting the Megazord up. Just like the first season Dinozords, each Thunderzord is initially being sold separately, so you can collect the Lion, Firebird, Unicorn, Griffin, and Red Dragon Combinable Thunderzords in order to assemble your own Mega Thunderzord. Oh, and about that name, I guess they're using it to draw some distinction between it and previous versions, and indeed different Megazords that use the same name, and hopefully not that they just didn't watch any further than its first few appearances on screen when the show used that as the initial alternate name. Anyway, let's talk toys rather than names. Here's what you need to know about the 2026 Mega Thunderzord, starting with the toy history. So this guy comes from back in 1993, where Japan's Gosei Sentai Dairanger had moved on to mythological creatures for its new mecha, which were ported over in 1994 for the Zords of Season 2 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and now again in 2026 for Season 2 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Reignition. The on-show lore folded the Rangers' Dinozords into the origin of these completely different Zords, with Alpha being able to save elements of them after Lord Zed sent them back into the molten earth. Honestly, it was a less barbaric end to Zords than what happens to these guys at the start of Season 3, but we'll cross that bridge later. The Thunderzords intro each episode pointed out that these were taking over from the Dinozords, and that was a really effective way of getting us to care about these brand new Zords. It worked for me back in 95, which is the year where we got the Thunderzords, a year behind the US, priced around £40, and then once again in 2016 for the Bandai Legacy version, promoted for age 15 plus collectors, priced around $200. Additionally, Bandai Japan re-engineered a Super Sentai Artisan version of the original DX toy in 2018, as well as a Super Sentai Chokugan modeling project version, basically Super Mini-Pla, in 2023, and launching at $42. That was the cheapest combining one, though very small. At the total opposite end of the price spectrum, there's even a stylized one made by Flame Toys, which is the most expensive version so far at $400. But it's taken Playmates to break the cycle of collector versions and return Thunder Megazord back to the audience it was initially intended for. Kids, 4+. The new versions are sold as 5 £20 Zords, so £100 to complete your Mega Thunderzord. And if 5 separate Zord releases aren't for you, it looks like there's also a boxed set version, as there briefly was with the Dino Megazord. And how have they fared? Well, thinking about the design, I've always liked the design of these Zords. The Chinese mythic inspiration works really well alongside the Power Rangers theming somehow, and to me, the assembled Megazord has one of the best overall looks. In a line usually made up of animals, vehicles, and dinosaurs, this is one set where the Red Ranger's dragon looks crazy enough, then has a warrior mode of his own, and then gets decked out in more soldier armor that don't look like the creatures they originate from when they're on him. It's similar to how most of Dino Megazord became more a humanoid robot than a dinosaur roadshow when it combined. Even the detailing is again a product of a bygone time. Cool design work that stands out as interesting and more human somehow. And don't get confused, this isn't a samurai, this is designed after a Chinese mountain pattern armor soldier. I'm really glad Playmates have found a way to pitch this thing at kids again, because it's an unusual and rare kind of sight in the realm of kids play. How often do you see Chinese mythical creatures that become an armored soldier on the toy shelf? Even in Power Rangers, you usually don't. They normally draw from Japanese or European historical design and not China, which is ironically the same country where these new versions have been manufactured. On to differences from the original then. So the release format isn't the only difference to the original, which was ironically the first Power Rangers Megazord to be sold separately anyway. It first came as either the Thunder Assault Team and the Red Dragon, or as a seemingly harder to find bundled Thunder Megazord set. This time selling them on the strength of their individual Zords means they have to do more to convince people to buy them. Playmates have even created power coin style symbols for the Zords boxes. They did this for the Dinozords, slightly changed from the original power coins, but this strikes me as more noticeable as we didn't have power coins for the Thunderzords. It's fascinating seeing another company approach the same designs that we've known so well through Bandai's Deluxe, Legacy and Super Mini Pla versions. So how else do they create the pang of desire for these new ones? Well, there's 4 new, very toyetic pieces that help facilitate new play modes. The Unicorn Neckhorn, the Griffin Missile, and the Firebird's 2 cannons. I guess this is in the vein of the extra swords and sled from the Cosmic Fury Megazord. It's not screen accurate, but it's also not necessary if you really don't want to use them. It gives the 4 non-transforming Zords a sort of secondary mode of their own without having to add too much transformation to them or warping them out of what we expect to see. The cannons can even be mounted on the back of the Megazord, so if you really missed the cannons from the Dino Megazord, there's a way to simulate them again here. I'm being careful not to call these changes good or bad really. The action modes are there as options, and at least they're not disruptive. Even the Unicorn neck hole isn't super perceptible unless you're looking at it dead on, and it's totally hidden in the Megazord mode. All those extra pieces, but what I really would have liked to have seen is a Thunder Sled. I think packaged with the Firebird would have made a lot of sense given how flat it is as a Zord. Traditionally, the Thunderzords would mount on the sled and fly around, though if you did try fly the toy around, sometimes the handle would detach, often the Red Dragon would fall over, even in the Legacy version, which more convincingly mounted the 4 main Zords to the tray. The same issue occurred with the Red Dragon falling over. Weak ankles, I guess. So if you don't get a sled, and so far no one has 3D printed one, what can you do? Well, because the Playmates versions scale near 1-to-1 perfectly with Bandai's 90s ones, just borrow theirs. No, the new Zords don't clip onto the old base, though Firebird's convincing enough, they do rest there well enough to get the photo, and even a daring flight. Just before we get into individual Zord comparisons, I will also mention that unlike the 90s originals, the peg holes for the Rangers minifigures haven't been replicated here, so the Zords are a little closer to the accuracy of the Legacy versions without doing that. The Mastodon Lion Thunderzord is the Zord of Zack, then Adam, and is one of the biggest of the line. You'll be glad to know that this version returns the colour scheme to its green highlight variety that Bandai America tried to hide back in the 90s when their Zords had to be the Ranger colour exclusively. I liked on the show that the Megazord had some green accents to it. It sort of implied that the main team had absorbed Tommy's Green Ranger power, which we know Jason and Zack had occasionally managed to do. The lion's head is wider, there's removal of chrome from the helmet, chestplate and lion paws. The old arms used to clip to each other, whereas the new one follows the Legacy school of thought of only attaching to the body, but they do so far more solidly this time. Correct me if I'm wrong guys, but I don't think the orb of the lion needs to be hinged. That seems like a carryover from the 90s version only, where you could actually slot the minifigures inside to represent what you see on the show. That was the cockpit instead of the head. It's not hollow, but it is now reversible for its action mode to carry the power sword sheath, which looks weird, but maybe it's meant to be a battering ram. The action mode gives some added height to the front paws and slides back grey panels on the back, or 4 of them if you like, to angle it slightly downwards. Kimberly's Pterodactyl Firebird Thunderzord did seem like a nice upgrade from her more basic dinosaur flying Zord, now with multiple articulated wing parts, arguably the precursor to next season's Falcon Zord. This new version returns the gold tail back to pointy after Bandai America rounded it off. They had a habit of doing that. And speaking of, it's a better colour gold that actually matches the rest of it, unlike the texture to paint mismatch of the original and the Legacy as well. The tail is unfortunately hollow on the underside, that's new. The head is significantly bigger, not sure why, but as pink is once again the smallest Zord of the line, Playmates include their team of minifigures in the same poses as last time, designed to stand beside your Zord or Megazord. They don't interact with the Zords in a meaningful way or even enter the chest sphere cockpit like the 90s ones did, but they are much better detailed than those tiny single colour mould versions from 1994. The Firebird's action mode is basically clipping the Red Dragon's staff, which now has a side handle, onto the underbelly, and 2 exclusive cannon launchers onto the wings. Onto Billy's Triceratops Unicorn Thunderzord, and Trini and later Aisha's Saber-Tooth Tiger Griffin Thunderzord. I'm bundling these two together because they look and function so similarly. And also because they were renamed from their Dairanger originals. Winged Horse Pegasus became Unicorn, and Chia Lin, ironically China's answer to a unicorn, became the Griffin. Like the originals, they still have wheels. That was a very nice surprise. They have slimmer profiles than the OGs. Their new sliding side parts are sort of better and worse. What's better are that the Zord bolts look more important. These were just stickers and flat on the originals. There's a loss of some molded texture detail though, especially towards the back because of the new sliding panels for the action modes. The leg covers for Megazord mode are the more screen accurate grey colour after the original made them black, though they have been reshaped and end a little bit sooner up the legs than they really should do. They both extend into taller and longer versions for their action modes. There's a hole in the unicorn's neck, which is needed for a flickable unicorn horn missile. Okay, sure. While Griffin doesn't have as much party going on its own side parts, it does have a concealed missile launcher with a spring-loaded button. Take that, unicorn. And Jason and later Rocky's Tyrannosaurus Red Dragon Thunderzord is actually a lot closer to the original than I expected, with the obvious exception of the paint colour, which seems way lighter than it should be. The dragon though is back to being a fun toy rather than the legacy style of an incredibly detailed but ultimately flawed display piece. It means there's less posability in the neck and tail this time, but as these become legs later, they've actually put the posability back to the places where it's most useful, the knees and feet. My current obsession is making these smaller dragon limbs look like they're coming out of the neck and tail rather than the sides of the body, and I'm glad to say it is possible. Something that does more closely match the legacy is that the decals are great and way better than the lightning bolt and gold chaos of the 90s original. For warrior mode, the dragon head follows the legacy version of not needing to split the mouth to mount the head. I remember that baffling me for ages with the original. I wondered why the chest couldn't be flush. It is missing a lot of paint from the midsection, but equally has introduced some paint that was missing from the original. He's notably missing stickers or silver paint detail from his forearm joints, but the detail is there if you want to remedy that yourself. A note that on my live stream for Lord Zed and the Z-Putty that Callum P 1996 did try to tell me that the tailpiece was on backwards. I couldn't work out what he meant, but soon after the stream finished I realised the second piece comes attached the wrong way around. Take it off, flip it round, fix it. It means that the tail can clip on the warrior mode higher up than I initially had it, and it's way more accurate and closer to the original. The staff is nicely painted rather than stickers. It's just a shame the Red Dragon can't hold on to it like normal. It's like it's not really designed for him. Previous versions had it friction to his thumb, but this one can't, and the fingers don't seem to have the right pressure to stay closed against the weight of it. It's only a single silver pin joint, so your mileage may vary with this one. Something they didn't copy from Legacy was the head raising up for the Megazord mode, which also unfortunately means the head can't turn, so it's back to the 2-peg helmet solution from 94, but with the more vivid colour scheme and accurate details overall. This is a good incarnation of the Thunder Megazord, but I'm not letting it get a pass on everything. So, what's bad about it? There's a slight design issue with the torso, specifically how the lion chest piece connects and how the Firebird hooks around the legs. And I'm not sure which Zord's fault it is. The Red Dragon, Lion and Firebird are all suspects. The most obvious aspect is how fiddly the Firebird feels. You would struggle to mess around with this too much. You constantly want to try push it closed as it seems to open in the center around the lion head, more so than any previous version. Only the back of the Firebird connects to the Megazord, so you'd think this thing would have a lot of flex to be moved around, but it just doesn't. The method of creating the Megazord via the Red Dragon has been made more confusing through having to arrange the legs with a slight curve. I don't know if this means the Firebird sits up a little higher than it should, which causes a collision with the Lion chest armor. So that doesn't sit flat, it's on at an angle, and any attempt to resolve it dislodges the Red Dragon's head. I will say it's good enough. Everything stays in place where it should, but you are left wondering what happened here, why it's not as neat a finish as it should be. Looking higher, the helmet is too wide. It's some sort of design choice, but to me, it's not the right one. It ends up looking something akin to Frank Langella's Skeletor's final mode in the 1987 Masters of the Universe movie. For a Megazord that does so much good work to stay screen faithful, it's weird that they chose to do this. But the worst part, I think, is the change to the Red Dragon's flappy bit. It's still needed for Dragon mode, otherwise the undercarriage swings down. The original got this right by making it fold up into the back of the Red Dragon, and it was the thing that secured the backpack on. Here it's got no place in Warrior mode, can't be secured onto anything, so it just flaps in the breeze the same way the gubbins on the back of Beast X Megazord did. At least in Megazord mode, the Firebird pins it down so you don't have to have it flapping. You can technically pull it off and remove it if it bothers you, but as I said, you can't do Dragon mode without it. And why did they make the base of the Dragon mode slightly apart from the body of the dragon? Every other version makes it seem like part of it. This makes it look like a display stand. But coming off the negativity train, what's good about it? The big accomplishments this time is with the individual Zord modes. The Zords have rarely looked better, and the incorporation of the action modes gives them something more to do, all without sacrificing too much screen detail. It was something I found slightly annoying about the Dino Megazord, that the Triceratops and Saber-tooth Tiger had their leg cannons changed so much and so obviously. And the cannons were made to be massive with big pink bullets. I really like a lot of the sticker and paint colours they've chosen here. It's the nicest, most screen accurate gold on a Thunder Megazord ever. Way better than the chrome of the 90s, and even more screen accurate than Bandai Legacy's brighter gold selection. The green is vibrant, the blue and yellow and pink seem nice and exact. I like how they solve the hands. Obviously, having to be able to hold two differently sized weapons isn't ideal for one common hand port, and Playmates have added some crosshairs in there to make for a better grip on each weapon. Speaking of, I love how the Power Sword clicks in and out of its sheath. Legacy introduced that, and it was a very cool quality of life feature. I also enjoy that the legs retain their Red Dragon rotation posability even in Megazord mode. The Bandai original lost that because of where the Firebird clipped on. It means you can get slightly more posing potential out of the legs. You can even simulate kicking, which on this Megazord is wild. One of the big things mentioned about the Playmates Dinozords was that they had a really satisfying amount of ratchets and clicking, which made transforming them fun again. This was always something I felt that was missing from Hasbro's Zord attempts that Bandai used to nail. Playmates are definitely up there in terms of making things function in a way that feels intuitive and fun, not like you're breaking things by putting them together. One of the most annoying things about the 90s version, and even the Legacy, was how easily it fell apart when in Megazord mode. Arms fell off, the helmet popped up when the two stiff arms were rotated, all the segments of the Firebird were rarely ever fully attached or in the right place, the staff fell into all three pieces all the time, it leant forward in the Legacy one. This is the first Thunder Megazord toy where you can just enjoy it. The parts seem to stay put no matter how chaotic play with it gets. That's surely something we need to appreciate, given the audience this thing needs to appeal to. To conclude then, it's wild that we've lapped 3 decades on from when this thing was first out there, and another company is taking a swing at it. For years we'd usually only get the Dino Megazord in the main line. Even when Hasbro did the basic MMPR line, they only did Dino, so this is a good way to support other seasons. Yeah, it's still Mighty Morphin, but it's starting to gently stray into the deeper lore MMPR than just its dinosaur pop culture face. And this takes us one step closer to finally getting a new Shogun Megazord, so fingers very firmly crossed that we do make it there. I did wonder whether Mega Thunderzord would make me want to go back and get Dino Megazord from Playmates. A lot of people have suggested I should, as they're really satisfied by it, and I was expecting a bigger toy here given how big they went with that Dino one. But actually it's a case where scale doesn't follow expectation. They've actually followed the scaling of the 1994 original rather than their own 2025 Dino Megazord. It seems like the scaling is coming back down to how it was in the Bandai era, and we'll see what becomes of the Season 3 stuff. I can see it both ways. It can be cool as fans to get a bigger take on the scaling of something, it makes it feel more different, but as kids I never once thought the Thunderzord needed to be any bigger or smaller. I did wish we had more height appropriate monster figures to battle it though. I can't believe that in 33 years of Power Rangers, the only Megazord appropriate monsters I've got are the 4 Nutcracker figures from Dino Charge and Beast Morphers. Wild. We needed this. Power Rangers needed this. If the Mega Thunderzord is as important as we remember it as, there should be modern day versions out there that people can buy and play with and not have to treat like a vintage collector's item that's too rare and valuable for kids to have their own one of. It pulls 1994 right back into modern day for a new generation to discover, and rose-tinted glasses maybe, but we had some pretty cool stuff back then. Playmates toys and character toys have managed to make their most screen-accurate Megazord so far an affordable option that doubles for your lost or broken Thunder Megazord from the annals of time, whether you want it for play or to display as both the Thunderzords and the Mega Thunderzord. It's all done with more vibrant and TV show accurate colouring. So if you've always wanted a Thunder Megazord that's ready to be played with without having to think about scratches or being careful finagling extra pieces, this is the one to go for. Enjoy pulling it apart and putting it back together again. It's a good balance between screen accurate and fun, and whenever they can manage both of those things, you get Power Rangers at its best. Thanks for checking out the video. Please subscribe and like it if you haven't done so already. Thanks also to my Viewing Globe tier members. The Ninja Steel Trilogy Part 3 will follow after these Thunderzord videos over on there. Guys, what do you think of the Season 2 Reignition toy line? Can you join me in basking in the joy of the Mega Thunderzord? And inevitably next we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the small topic of the White Tigerzord. But for now, what do you think of this guy as he is? Let me know in the comments, and until we can size up that White Tigerzord, see you later.